Well, welcome everyone. It's nice to have you here for the session, the fourth session on navigating special needs family training. We're happy that you could join us. We also want to welcome those who will be watching later when their kiddos go to bed. We know many of you are taking advantage of the recorded slides. So those are on the chsciowa.org website. So if you missed one and you'd like to catch up, we encourage you to do that. Just a few reminders. We'd like you to keep your microphone muted unless you're talking. We encourage you to keep your video on. It doesn't matter what you look like today. You can have sweats on or bedhead or anything. It does help us build a community. So if you would put your video on, that would be great, unless you're doing something private. Use the chat feature. If you have questions for the speaker, I'll watch that and gather them for the discussion period. Just a quick reminder, when we do discuss, we share the air, we keep confidentiality, we speak from our own experience, and we hesitate to give advice unless we're asked specifically. If there are questions that are off the topic of this presentation about reliable resources, we put that on a parking lot and try to address it another time. Okay, so I'd like to try this interactive activity or an icebreaker. To everyone in the meeting, there is a Google Doc in the chat room. If you can go to it, there is a map there for you to put a pin where you were born. If you would like to, you can put another pin on where you'd like to visit. So I will show you the screen, what it looks like, and we can watch people's pins show up. Stop that share and try another one. So there's a, right up here is a, where it says add marker. You click that and then you drop it. Where you were born, you can scroll in and out like this. Rachel, are you seeing my United States map?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So right up here, there's a marker. It says add marker, and you just click that and then drop it where you were born, and it'll show up over here, and you can label it with your name too. So you have to keep refreshing to show where everybody else has been adding. Oh, I see Kimberly is Minnesotan. And Riley's from way up there, Decorah, I believe. And then if you scroll out, you can see that Jill would like to visit Italy, and Diane would like to go to South Korea and see a former exchange student. You can also come over here and change the color of your pin to make it a little easier to see your own color. Okay, and I'm gonna refresh again, see if there's more people that joined. Oh, somebody was born in Denison. Yep, we've got people all over the place, don't we? You can come over here on this side and just click it, and then you can, whoops, that took me to where it was. Right click it, sorry, and then you can edit, and you can put the person who wants to go to Australia, you can put your name in there. Ooh, lots of people want to go visit over here. Or maybe they're born there. We don't know. Anybody else want to label their pin so we can see where you were born or where you'd like to visit? When I did this with another group, you could just put in the chat where you were born or where you'd like to visit if this Google form is not friendly to you.
Yeah.
So there's where Kylie lives. Oh, and Kylie would like to visit in California. And Martha wants to visit. Ooh, Megan wants to go down to Cancun. I bet you do. Okay, well, that's kind of a fun thing to do, just to get acquainted. We're glad for all of you that you're here, and I would like to introduce you to our speaker this morning. And Riley, you can go ahead and share your slides if you'd like. Riley Samuelson is an education and outreach librarian at the Hardin Library for Health Sciences at the University of Iowa Libraries. He's also a partner outreach librarian with the network of the National Library of Medicine. This is housed in the National Institute of Health and created with your tax dollars. And he's here to show you what our federal agencies have created for us. There's many places that family members can get health information. Some is reliable, some's not so much. And Riley's here to share some tools from the National Library of Medicine for the public and to help us figure out what resources we can trust. Riley is a repeat guest presenter for family trainings, and every time I hear him, I learn something new. So welcome, Riley.
Thanks, Diane. I feel like every time I give a presentation, I also learn something new. So you're probably learning what I'm learning. So there we go. Like Diane said, I'm here with the University of Iowa Libraries and the Greater Midwest Region Office of the National Network, or the Network of the National Library of Medicine. There was a name change recently. Is housed here in Iowa City, and that's in the outreach arm of the National Library of Medicine, which is situated under the NIH. And the National Library of Medicine is like the largest medicine library in the world, and it's also the organization that runs all of these websites, both for consumers and for professionals, and we're going to look at some of those today. So to begin with, we're just going to look at our educational objectives slide. So following this presentation, you'll be able to assist your community to locate health information for caregivers of children with special needs in Medlineplus, use the drug information portal to locate drug information, use Genetics Home Reference to locate information on genetic conditions, use the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health to search supplements, and also to use Pillbox to identify pills. And before we actually start looking at those, we're going to cover a sort of some like basic ideas to consider when you're looking for health information. So the first thing we're going to cover quick is evidence-based. So evidence-based means that something, usually a practice, a profession, especially in medicine, relies on scientific and or mathematical evidence to form strong inductive or deductive arguments for guidance and decision-making. Practices that are not evidence-based may rely on tradition, intuition, or other unproven methods. An example of this might be in the mid-20th century, like 50 to 70 years ago kind of thing. Doctors would say that smoking is good for you. Either they would make a reason for it or they would parrot what other doctors would say. That's not evidence-based practice. There was nothing to back that up. It was just sort of ideas and suggestions and maybe some other factors going into that. And we know today that smoking is bad for you. And we know smoking is bad for you because we have that evidence and scientific information that backs that up. So knowing smoking is bad for you is based in evidence. And there's various types of evidence-based practice. There's evidence-based medicine, evidence-based nursing, there's even evidence-based librarianship. So you're a librarian here. So that's one thing to always consider, is to make sure that you look at evidence-based information. Okay, a new section that we added for this time, or I guess I did, is what to consider when you're figuring out the reliability of a health information website. And so we just want to sort of remember A, B, and C, which is a very simple thing to remember. So in considering the reliability of a health information website, we want to have the questions of, does the website use authority? What is the author's bias? And is the information current? I'm going to scroll down in my notes. So to start off, authority, bias, current, A, B, C. To start off, we're going to authority. So that means that writers know what they are talking about. Usually this might mean that usually this means that somebody knows what they're doing, they have education, or at least they're using the right resources to look at things. Things to consider when you're looking at a website, one question you might want to ask yourself is, what does the web address look like? Does it end in edu or .gov? Trusted institutions of higher education and government are given these web address endings. Like, nobody else can really just casually sign up for them. And usually this means that they're super trusted, they're vetted. Generally, I think we can all hope that our government wants the best for us. This doesn't mean that we can fully negate other endings like .com, .org, or .net, but those are more open to everyone, which means that you can have great resources and you can have not so great resources with those endings. Another thing to wonder about is, are there links or references to reliable resources? Responsible authors tell you where they get their information. They should tell you where they're getting their information, and then if they have the links for that, check one or two of the links to see if they're good sources of information. Usually you can trust scientific journals. Sometimes you can trust links to other websites. Sometimes there's good ones and not so good ones. And ones to sort of rarely trust are links to social media or stores. And the other question to wonder about is, are they part of a well-known organization? Is this page made by one of these well-known organizations? That might be something like NLM resources like we're looking at today. Maybe they're related to the American Heart Association, the Mayo Clinic, or some sort of other reputable organization that we all sort of know we can trust. The best information comes from large organizations that do much more than just have a website or sell something. Once again, the American Heart Association and Mayo Clinic sort of fit that. And it's always a good thing to also maybe look into finding out a little more about what else that organization does. Going on to bias, this means that writers have other interests, particularly interests beyond only education and information. Questions you can ask include, is the website pushing a single point of view or single actions? A good website will not try to convince you of something or get you to do something. Look for websites that just share information. They're usually just educational and offer up that information to you. Another thing to wonder about is, are ads clearly marked? Usually the best health information websites do not have any ads. And the reality is that can't always be the case, but websites that do sell ads or have ads on them should have them clearly marked. There should be no confusion between the information they provide and the ads that are on a website. Another thing to consider is, do they use words like shocking, beware, or truth in the headlines? Good websites will not play on your fears of getting sick, and that's something to consider. So, and the third part of ABC is current. So this means that the website is not out of date. And this is probably the most simple concept, but usually means looking around on the website, on the pages themselves. Questions to think about are there dates anywhere on the page? Good websites know that that health information is constantly changing, and they want to make sure you're seeing the latest information. Has the website or page been recently updated? A recent date is a sign that the information is current and being updated with new information. Old dates don't necessarily mean that the information is wrong, but it is a sign to be careful. And usually, even if there aren't any changes on a certain topic page, they'll still update it just to show that up to this point there was still nothing new. So that's something to consider. And lastly, do the links work? Broken links are a sign that the website is not being well maintained, which may mean that the information is also not being maintained itself. So those are our ABC components to remember: authority, bias, and current. I think the slides will be given out to participants, so you'll have the list on there and also the questions. Okay, so let's look into the Medline, or the National Library of Medicine resources that are great for consumers like you, members of the public. So the first one is going to be Medlineplus. It's a great place for an overview and background on various health-related information. It uses plain language, and all the information is usually easy to read. Essentially, it's sort of like the government's WebMD. That's sort of like an easy way to think about it. WebMD will actually use content straight from Medlineplus, which is a good thing that a major resource recognizes this as quality information. However, unlike WebMD, there's not advertising. There aren't ads. They're not tracking you. They're not profiting off of your health concerns. You're not going to look up something and then later when you're scrolling Facebook or Instagram, seeing an ad that relates back to that. Your information here is as private as it can be. And also, when we go back, thinking back at the ABC, sort of the no ads thing, it goes back to that bias section of are there ads there? Is somebody profiting off of this? Just something to consider. Generally, it's great for information for patients and their families. It has sections on various health topics, drugs and supplements, videos, tools, all sorts of things. They also have good quality standards. There's links to a lot of other resources and websites. All are high quality information sources and have been vetted. I believe there's over 35,000 links. There's probably more now that will actually link outside of the website. So they might go back to the National Institute for Mental Health, to the Mayo Clinic, to the American Heart Association, all the other sort of very specific health associations out there that we know we can trust. They also offer pre-formatted searches for Pubmed. Pubmed is the sort of scholarly scientific literature database that the National Library of Medicine runs, that anybody can use it to search for articles. You might not always be able to access them, but a lot of them are freely available. And this is if you want to go sort of a deep dive into the sort of more hardcore literature on a subject. And usually that's more for professionals and scientists and whatnot, but everybody can learn something as long as you're willing to take the time to look at things. You can also register for email updates from Medlineplus if you want. Sign up for a newsletter or specific topic areas. I believe you have that option. And also, almost everything on the site is available in Spanish, and so there's a little Espanol button, usually in the top right corner, that you can click it, and it immediately switches the page over to Spanish. Not all of the outside links are available that way, but most of the website is available in Spanish. So if you do know of somebody who needs that or would benefit from that, that's an option there. And going back to the sort of plain language, easy to read information aspect of it, usually everything is written in a 6th grade reading level. That's just sort of a general practice for writing for the public. So now I'm gonna open up Chrome or switch over. Let's see. Okay, and are we seeing Medlineplus on Zoom? Okay, good. I'll zoom in a couple of times. I might zoom out once. Okay, so this is sort of the main landing page of Medlineplus. Your main sort of sections are going to be at the top, but they're also going to be duplicated here on the side. There's also the medical tests and medical encyclopedia portions. Signing up for the email can go over here. Generally, really the fastest way is to either click on health topics and go through the A to Z list, or just to use the search bar. The search bar is normally the fastest thing, and it's also going to just sort of open you up to all the resources. I'm just going to type in Down syndrome and just hit enter or click go, however you do it. And this is usually what the results pages look like. Usually if it can recognize something right away, and point to one of its main pages for a topic, it will do that. So this sort of Down syndrome section over here, this link will go to the main sort of Down syndrome information page. But then also below that, there's going to be results for all of these sort of outside links and other sort of Medlineplus links. So we can see that there's links that go to Medlineplus, but then there are links that will also go to like the National Institute on Aging or the National Human Genome Research Institute, and other various organizations, both governmental and non-governmental. And then you can also use the left-hand filters to refine your topic, or maybe if you're looking for PDFs that you can print or images or videos, you have those options over there. But I'm just going to click on the our main entry there. And so most of the main entries are sort of laid out like this. They'll often have a picture over here. They'll have the navigation of the page. So if you want to jump to a certain section, you can do that and it'll just jump down to lower on the screen. Many pages will also have the sort of links to the Medical Encyclopedia. I'm going to look at that quick, just open that in a new tab. And so the Medical Encyclopedia, it's really great for like handouts and general information that you can give to people. Like you can click the printer button and have a printer-friendly version. Usually you have to click to expand the whole sort of entry, but then I'm going to scroll down and you can see that there's all sorts of information. This might be something that you might want to give to a friend or maybe a new caregiver or maybe your school's nurse or teacher, whatever you want. Just sort of, it's a pared down page of information. I'm going to go back. So for an example of the sort of information that they have, so there's a start here section that, depending on like what you want to learn about, you can go through it that way. But then they also have more specialized things. So for example, under related issues, there's a link for a page about eye problems that will actually go to the American Association for Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus. And so then there's a page from a reputable organization that's been vetted, and then they have information specifically on that topic. And we can check here, says this was updated in April. So going back to our current ABC current section, something to consider. Various other sections like genetics, statistics, clinical trials, journal articles. For example, normally in the last link in the journal articles goes to that pre-formatted Pubmed search. It opens there, creates the search for you, and the results are there. But what we're going to look at now is the children's section. So the children's section, it often is used for information for children. So this goes to the Nemours Foundation, which has a website, Kids Health. And so Kids Health both has information on kids' health for parents, but then it also has information geared towards kids and towards teens. And so there's like a parent version of like a Down syndrome page, but then also a kids version. I usually see the kids version as one, good for a kid to read if they're interested in reading the website themselves, but it also might have good language to use for talking to a child about some sort of diagnosis or characteristic. So that's a really great thing. this site, like this website has been around like for a long time. I remember like seeing it like in middle school. And so they update their information. They're very reputable. They're probably one of the more well-known websites for like that focus on kids. If we click on for parents, there's different sections here. We can click on growth and development, and they have all sorts of guides and things to consider. I'm going to close that. We're also going to take a look at the autism spectrum disorder. Is that the one I want? Yes. So once again, the page is very similar. They have a layout there. For this one, we're going to look at, let's see. This has a section for health check tools. So Medlineplus has links to a lot of the different health check tools. This one is for developmental milestones in relation to autism, and this comes from the CDC. And so once again, it links out to an organization that we all know we can trust, and then from there you can explore different aspects of that. Also, they have find an expert sections. So for here, if you want to do like a psychologist locator, we have a link from APA, the American Psychological Association, and we can use that to locate a psychologist. And the last one we'll look at is epilepsy. So I'm going to jump to the bottom because it says for you and there's patient handouts. And so these are different handouts. Most of them I think go to actually the Medical Encyclopedia of Medlineplus, but they're great things to consider, like I said, for printing handouts. And a lot of them will have like images and whatnot that you can look at that are a little more illustrative information having to do with all of that. And they're also pretty succinct, and you can see they have their references, they have their review dates, they cite their information. They even say who's updating these, which is also when we're wondering about authority, we have that there. Okay, I think one other thing that we're going to look at is for like videos. So one that Diane and I chose yesterday was having to do with children and MRIs. So you can search for your topic. I'm going to narrow it down by videos. And the top link here is for children's MRI information. So this goes to radiologyinfo.org. And then there's this like, I'm going to mute this. No, it's muted. They have like handy videos here that sort of show you what goes on. I think when I was scrolling to this earlier, you can even like show your child like what might happen or what it might look like if they would have to go through an MRI. Earlier I was thinking this, it looks like you're in some sort of like futuristic like spaceship kind of thing. Yeah, and then they also have information on the page about like what are procedures, how to prepare your child for an MRI, all sorts of wonderful resources, and it's all very visual too, which is very nice. Okay, so we're going to transition back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to move on to another website. So the next one that we're going to look at is Drug Information Portal. And so this is like a gateway to drug information. There's information on nearly 50,000 drugs, probably more, because they're making new ones all the time. And it sort of gathers and pulls information from Medlineplus, from LactMed and LiverMed, LactMed and liver tox. LactMed has to do with lactation, liver tox has to do with the liver, daily med pillbox, and more. It's probably the one that's most succinct as far as the topic. Oops, did I stop sharing? Let me see. Okay. Okay, I think I accidentally stopped sharing, but I think it's back on. Do you see drug information portal? Okay, good. Okay, good. So this is what the main landing page looks like. Probably of all the websites we're going to look at today, it's the one that doesn't visually look the most current, but it's constantly updated all the time. You can even see that it says at the bottom last updated August 2020, which is when we are now. So the first thing we're going to look at, for an example, is fluoxetine, which is an antidepressant. I think the name brand version of that might be Prozac. So it brings up the page. It gives us the drug name. We can click on these buttons to view the synonyms. If you're really hardcore, you can view the structure of it. I wouldn't know what it would mean. There's a short description if it belongs to certain categories, and then we sort of have all these different links. And so like the first one is the summary, and that will go to the sort of drug section of Medlineplus. The first part will have, like, if there's any important warnings to worry about, it's going to have them there. And then the rest of this page is going to be talking about, like, why it's used, how you should use it, usually how often you need to take it, what to do if you miss something, and all these other sort of questions, like other interactions you have to worry about. It goes on and on. There's also links to LACMED and liver tox. So LACMED has to do sort of the effect on breastfeeding and like if a drug can be transmitted or transported through breast milk. Liver tox has to do with drug-induced liver injury, sort of how the liver sort of processes a drug and if it will damage it. It will also link out to DailyMed, and DailyMed is this one's also an NLM resource. It's loading a little slowly right now, but often, especially in generic medications, each batch of a medication can be different. Like the main active ingredient will stay the same, but sometimes the inactive ingredients and the fillers and the casings and shapes and whatnot, they can change. And so DailyMed sort of tracks those for you. So like for instance, I had a case or sort of like a reference desk shift where a mother asked me, she needed help because her daughter was allergic to various things and she had started taking like 2 new medications and she had an allergic reaction from one of them, but it wasn't from the active ingredient. And so she was sort of like working with her pharmacist, but she needed some further help. And so I pointed her to DailyMed, which she could then use along with her pharmacist to figure out like what was sort of the packaging and what the ingredients of these pills were, which was super useful. I don't think her pharmacist necessarily knew about this as far as tracking all these different variations, but you can that's what that's useful for. And you can see the labels and storage information, all of that. They will also link out to, I believe, Pillbox, which we'll look at later. We also have options to go to like Pubmed and sort of see the more scientific literature on a certain drug. In general, it's a one-stop shop for drug information, but then, of course, talk with a doctor or pharmacist if you have concerns. But it's sort of understandable that you might not always be ready for that in the moment. Like I know many times where I was either at the doctor's office or getting the prescription at the pharmacist, and they asked me if I had questions, and I'm like, no, and because maybe I wanted to be kind, or I didn't want to bother them, or I was in a rush, or I was just like, it was all too much. Like this is a useful resource to like sort of go back and look at through your own at your own pace, process it at your own speed. I guess another example we'll just do quick is Vyvanse, which is a named brand drug. I think it's often for ADHD. And once again, we have the various information on it, and we'll go to Medlineplus page. This one has its own different kind of warning. This one, it's because it's habit forming, because it's essentially I think it's more of a stimulant, so that's why. I think that's like the major things you need to see about that right now. So we'll switch back to the PowerPoint again. Oh, that's why I stopped. Okay, I accidentally stopped the PowerPoint presentation itself. There we go. Okay, next resource is Genetics Home Reference. So this one's a very straightforward title of the website. It's information for parents and their families about genetic condition summaries, gene summaries, chromosome summaries. They have a Help Me Understand Genetics section. They offer searches for Pubmed. That's the basic information about the website. We'll go back to the web browser and open it up. Oh, did I mistype that? Oh, I don't think I copied it right. There we go. Okay. So the main sections are going to be here. They're going to be at the top, but then also like in Medlineplus, they're going to also have them more sort of visually laid out on the main page. So the health conditions, information about genes, and information about chromosomes, and then the Help Me Understand Genetics section. We are just going to first look at health conditions, and we're going to look at Down syndrome again. We could also, I'm just going to go to the Ds, and I'm going to either scroll down or search for Down syndrome, but we could also look for trisomy 21 under the Ts, because it's going to have, if there's multiple ways you can talk about it, it should have that in their list. Sorry, email things. So over here at the top, you can actually use these buttons to collapse everything and look at the sections. They're going to have description, causes, frequency, diagnosis and management links. For example, if we open that up, we're going to see that there's all these different resources that are available. Information, pictures. They're even going to have they'll even have links that will open up to pictures of examples or sort of more descriptive pictures that you can use there. They also have sort of a printable PDF version of the website. Once again, maybe it's something you want to give to a teacher, a school nurse, or a friend, or even just to have for yourself, like a physical copy. And sort of beyond education, there's so many vetted resources that this is going to link out to. The same thing sort of with genes and chromosomes, we can sort of go look at individual genes if that's something that you want to look at. The same thing with chromosomes, you can click on a chromosome and have the information about what that chromosome does and sort of what's related to it, any like conditions or genes. There's also this classroom section, which especially now when a lot of people have been homeschooling or trying to get their kids some education during this COVID time, they have all these resources for teachers and students. There's a lot of lesson plans and experiments and all sorts of things that you can make, it's really useful, especially, I mean, I've never homeschooled anyone, but I do know that lesson plans take a long time to put together, so that there's this resource here for you is really great. And then for education especially, there's this Help Me Understand Genetics section, which you can start at the basics and go into like, what is a cell or what is DNA? And then you can sort of work your way up if you want. And there's dozens and dozens of pages that you can go through about screening or testing or consultations or gene therapy, like all of this information here that is you can use to educate yourself and be more aware of what's going on at sort of the genetic level. Yes, okay. So we're going to switch back again. So we're going to look at the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. And so this is the Agency for Scientific Research on Complementary and Integrative Health. And this one I think is more under the NIH in general, not necessarily the National Library of Medicine. Not that that matters, but you will see that slight difference. And so before we look at that, I'm going to quickly explain complementary, alternative, and integrative. So if a non-mainstream practice is used together with conventional medicine, it's considered complementary. So it's complementing another sort of practice. If you go back to sort of angles or geometry, it's sort of filling in that sort of angle gap. If a non-mainstream practice is used in place of conventional medicine, it's considered alternative, so in place of rather than with. That's like sort of the basic thing there. And integrative health is more aligned with the complementary side and sort of bringing in your provider, because you should always consult your healthcare provider or physician, because they need to know if you're pursuing a sort of complementary or alternative health plan, and sort of they need to be able to integrate it into how they're helping you, because sometimes there's like herbs and supplements that can have bad reactions with medicines, and so a physician really needs to know what you may be taking or participating in, so they can sort of help plan the health journey. Yes, so the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, you can search by health condition, herbal remedies. On pages, they have a sort of bottom line section on the effectiveness of like certain like dietary supplements and herbs and whatnot, which is like a sort of a useful, just quick summary of does this work or not, or at least usually they frame it in the sort of format of, is there evidence for this? They usually won't say this does not work. They'll usually say there isn't evidence, or maybe they might say that there's evidence that this could cause harm. We're going to look at that now. I don't know if any of you have been to this website before, but like in the last year, it sort of changed its look, especially like during the COVID pandemic. So the main parts of the website are over here. There's the health topics, there's herbs at a glance. There's sort of other educational sections of like being an informed consumer and know the science. There's even a section for healthcare providers. Information, I'm guessing, on pain management and other sort of highlights. What we're going to do is we're going to look up under the health topics. We're going to first look at autism. And sort of we have our sort of summary page. There's a sort of bottom line information. For example, that there's no cure, but there's other sort of therapies and that may help. They talk about if there's quality research out there on things. So they talk about like if there is sort of like a major or a common remedy or therapy used, like they'll mention it. Like here they say melatonin may help with sleep problems in people with ASD. They have sections on safety, things to consider. They once again have a last update of when this page was updated, still rather recent. And they'll also, on the right hand side, they'll also have other links, ones for healthcare providers, and also it looks like a fact sheet and other website from other government agencies. Okay, let's see. We're also going to look at St. John's Wort. I think this is going to be in herbs at a glance. And so like these sort of have like sort of the major herbs that are used. We're going to click on St. John's wort. It's going to have background information, like maybe historically what it was used for, what they know. Here in bold, they say it's clearly shown that this can interact with other medications, so that you need to be careful. Things to keep in mind, other information, websites for more academic scholarly literature. They're going to have their references there so they can actually back up what they're talking about, so that evidence-based and authority aspects of what we covered earlier, and a more recent update. So you can use these links to sort of educate yourself and see what's going on. So yeah, it's more, it gives you sort of more agency rather than somebody just telling you, oh yes, it works, or no, it doesn't. You can actually look at the information yourself. But yeah, like those are the main aspects. There's also, I think, the Know Your Science section has some modules that you can sort of go through about understanding things, and sort of one here is like 9 questions to help you make sense of health research. And sort of all this is like good for education and your sort of health information endeavors. Okay, we're going to go to our last PowerPoint section and website section, which is going to be Pillbox, the greatest one of them all. So Pillbox is used to identify pills based on appearance. So you can search by a pill's name, its ingredient, its imprint, such as like the, like the little letters and numbers on it, the color, the shape, a combination of them. And then after identifying it, you have links to the drug label through DailyMed, or you can actually go back to the drug information portal page. It's a very, I feel like it's a very simple website, but it just seems so handy and nifty. And it's the one that just seems most current. I don't know. It's just a fun website, and I don't know why. Okay, let's see. Oops. If it will load.
Riley, one thing we always talked about with Pillbox is if you drop a container of pills on the floor and you can't remember what bottle they go in, you can look for and identify it using this website.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going to cover a list of things earlier. So or sorry, later. But it's useful for like a case like that, or like let's say you're acting as a caregiver for somebody older or younger, and maybe they have pills that you're not sure about, or they need to like, if you're refilling your sort of weekly or monthly or whatever like pill set, you can use this to double check to make sure that like what each thing is. Another instance could be like, since pills, like especially generic ones, they can change, like the appearance can change from prescription to prescription. Like you get a different version of your pill, you can double check or make sure yourself, like especially if you're not too sure, because it's always good to be more aware of what you're taking and sure that you're taking the right thing. Some people, not saying that I do this or that there's like a bottle like this 2 feet from me, but sometimes you might have a mix-up bottle of pills, maybe in your backpack or purse or something, and maybe you're not sure what a certain little pill is. You can use Pillbox to look that up, and also to get back to like that DailyMed packaging information. So one of the first ones I'm going to look up is Vyvanse, which one of my friends in college took this, and it's and so I remember that I know for a fact that it had orange in it, and I know it's called Vyvanse, but I don't know like which one it was, because I know there are different types of it. I can put those 2 things in there, and it gives me 2 options. There's a 70 milligram one and the 30 milligram one. And so I can click on that, say like, oh, that's the one I recognize. It has all the right information on it. And then it will link out to DailyMed, and then Drug Information Portal. I could also just say I know the name of it, and I can get my various options here. There's different dosage levels. Or maybe I only know that it has this imprint of S489, and I don't know the name of it. So I can just do S489, and I know, and I can say that, oh, part of it is, it's orange, so I can search for that, and I can bring it up that way. Or like, let's say I know that the person I'm taking care of, among one of their pills, they take fluoxetine, but I don't know which pill that is. I can look up just the name fluoxetine, and I can see sort of the various various ways that that can look like, and there's pages and pages of it. But I can say like, oh, I know it's this one. I can click on that. I can double check the information and the dosage and everything, and go about it that way. They also have, there's various shape options, and so we could say that something's like I don't know if there's yellow teardrop shapes, but there are all these different options and ways that you can look for different drugs. I don't think there's anything else with Pillbox that I have to show you right now. Going back to the slide, I think the only other slide that I have left is just a thank you slide, but this would be the time for questions, or if there's anything you want to look at. How are we for time, Diane?
We have about 8 minutes left, so we're really good. I'd like to know what you thought about this presentation. Have you used these things before? Just please unmute yourself and share what you have used or what you think you might do with this great resource that Riley's so carefully and thoroughly shared with us. What do you think?
So Diane, this is Martha, and I have a granddaughter with a genetic disorder that's resulted in some vision loss. And when I typed in that diagnosis, I saw that there's a family support organization associated with it that I'll give to her parents. So because they'll get the latest information not only from their provider but also from this foundation too.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful idea. Things that you'll find. Do you have questions for Riley? We have a outreach research librarian at our fingertips here. Are there things that you would like to learn about and you'd like Riley to suggest what you might do to continue your research? Kylie says it was very informational, and Sarah says I have to leave and I'll catch questions later. Have a good day and weekend, everyone. Okay, I did want to share, thanks so much, Riley, for this really helpful presentation. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. I did want to let you know the next one will be by Jill Stevenson, a family leader who's helped us plan these, and she's on the call today, and she'll be talking about how you do care coordination at school. How do you take these principles that we've been learning and take them to school? And it's a very timely message because about August 21, we will be heading back to school. I would, if you could be so kind, I'm going to put this link in the chat for everybody. You can click on it and it just takes you to our evaluation, and you can tell us what you thought of this presentation and anything we could do to improve it. And then also, if there are other topics that you wish that we would offer in family training. Again, please reach out to any of us if you have questions. Our names are there. We have time for 1 or 2 more comments or questions if people would like to make them.
I really appreciated, this is Megan, I really appreciated the radiology info site. We have a little guy who we adopted recently, and every time we go to a medical appointment, he screams and bawls, and so kind of just showing him what's going to happen maybe if he's getting some sort of scan or getting some sort of x-ray, and being able to show him what's happening, which I thought that was really helpful. So thank you for that.
You bet. Yeah, those social stories about helping children know what to expect. It's good for all of us. As parents, we can be pretty freaked out too when we get into a room and see something we've not seen before, right?
I guess like one follow-up thing I'll say that I guess I didn't say it earlier, but it just might be a good practice that if you do look for information, just start by searching in Medlineplus, because essentially they give you hundreds of search results, and essentially they sort of help filter the internet for you. So it's a good way to just sort of clear out the things that you might not want to look at.
I found too, Riley, that because I can't always remember genetics reference website or the drug information portal website, if I start at medlineplus.com, which I can remember, then I can usually get linked to those other websites very in a handy way. I see Pillbox, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted, Pillbox. So it'll show up that way. So yeah, you did get a Medlineplus bookmark in the mail this week, or if you haven't yet, it's coming. We hope you can keep that nearby. Did you get it? Put a thumbs up if you got it. Yeah, good, good, great. Oh, Jess even found the literal thumbs up. Good for you. Thanks so much for joining us today and for participating in the Where in the World You Are activity. And Riley, again, thank you so much for this tailored presentation that really is helpful to families. Have a good week, a good weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks and talk about school. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.